Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into a really massive anniversary, a bicentennial, actually.
200 years. It's hard to wrap your head around sometimes.
It really is. And imagine this, 1824, this young guy, Sadi Carnot, he's only 28.
Just 28.
And he publishes this paper. Now, the theory was based on.
Yeah.
We now know it was, well, wrong.
The caloric theory, yeah. Heat as a fluid.
Exactly. But despite that, his work basically laid the entire groundwork for, like, one of the most fundamental fields in physics, thermodynamics.
It's incredible, really. The foundations were sound, even if the premise shifted later.
So our mission today is to unpack this story. Nicholas Leonard Sadi Carnot and his treatise, Reflections on the Motive Power of Fire.
Quite a title.
It is. We want to explore how his brilliant insights, even though his life was cut tragically short, completely changed how we think about energy.
And why it's still so relevant, right? Even now.
Absolutely. Why it matters today and what lessons we can take away for science, maybe even society. And we're basing this on a fantastic new paper that's come out for the bicentennial. It really digs deep into the history and the science of Carnot's work.
Sounds good. Should be interesting.
Let's set the scene then. Paris, 1824.
Okay.
Europe still, finding its balance after the Napoleonic Wars.
That turbulent time.
Definitely. And the Industrial Revolution, it's really starting to take off, changing everything. Steam engines, factories.
Oh, real buzz, technologically and intellectually.
Exactly. And in this climate, you've got this 28-year-old Carnot, graduate of the École Polytechnique, very prestigious.
Right.
And he publishes this book, Reflections on the Motive Power of Fire and on Machines Fitted to Develop That Power.
It wasn't just a pamphlet either, was it?
No, not at all. Our source says it was a solid 188-page technical paper, really rigorous, a model of scientific scholarship, even for today.
Wow. So a serious piece of work.
Very serious. Not just some casual thoughts.
And the context you mentioned, it's key here. France. Okay, it's the Restoration period.
Yeah.
But the Industrial Revolution is racing ahead, especially in Britain. They had a big lead technologically.
Because of steam engines mostly. Watt and others.
Largely, yes. James Watt's improvements were, well, game-changing. And this wasn't just some academic point for Carnot.
No.
His father, Sadi Carnot, quite a figure himself, military strategist in the Revolution.
Right.
He really hammered home to Sadi how important Britain's industrial strength was, and he linked it directly to their steam engines.
Oh, so it was strategic.
Absolutely. Lazare saw it as vital for France's future. So for Sadi, this research wasn't just curiosity. It was framed as, like, a crucial national challenge.
Okay, that's a really important layer. It wasn't just him tinkering in a lab out of pure interest.
No, there was a sense of purpose, maybe even duty, tied to France's standing.
A national scientific imperative almost to understand these fire machines.
You could say that, yeah.
So Carnot looks around and he notices something. Machines powered by, people, animals, waterfalls, wind.
The traditional power sources.
Right. Those seem to have complete theories, as he put it. People understood how they worked, more or less.
There were established principles, mechanics, hydraulics.
But when it came to getting movement from heat, that's where he saw the understanding as, well, incomplete.
And that's the jump-off point. Why was it incomplete?
Yeah.
Because there wasn't a general theory. People were tweaking specific engines, sure, but there wasn't an overarching framework.
Right. Just specific cases.
Exactly. Carnot's genius was seeing the need for a universal principle, something that applied to all heat engines you could possibly imagine.
All of them, regardless of design.
Regardless of design, regardless of the working substance, steam, air, alcohol, vapor, whatever. He wanted the fundamental rule.
Wow.
And this idea of universality, looking for principles that apply broadly, that's a concept that becomes massive later in physics, especially statistical physics, way beyond just engines.
That's a huge conceptual leap, especially back then. He's not just trying to build a better steam engine.
No, he's trying to find the ultimate rules of the game for converting heat to work.
How did he even approach that? Without the tools we have now, like conservation of energy wasn't even established yet.
It was mainly through brilliant theoretical reasoning, a thought experiment, but incredibly rigorous. And the core of it is what we now call the Carnot cycle.
The Carnot cycle. Okay, let's break that down.
So imagine you have a cylinder with some gas inside, say air.
Got it.
Now, you alternately put this cylinder in contact with something really hot, call it source A, and then something really cold, call it sink B.
Hot source, cold sink. Okay.
The key is how you manage the expansion and compression of the gas as it touches these sources. Our source paper uses a great description, very intuitive, something the author uses in lectures, apparently.
Yeah.
It's basically about gaining power by expanding when hot and returning to original state with less effort when cold.
Expanding when hot, compressing when cold, and getting net work out. Makes sense.
Exactly. And later, this was formalized into 4 clear steps.
Right, the 4 stages.
First, the gas expands while touching the hot source, staying at a constant hot temperature. That's isothermal expansion.
Okay, isothermal means constant temperature.
Correct. Then, step 2, you isolate the cylinder so no heat gets in or out, and let the gas expand further. It cools down as it does. That's adiabatic expansion.
Adiabatic, so no heat exchange. Got it.
Step 3, you put it in contact with the cold sink and compress it, keeping it at the constant cold temperature. Heat flows out to the cold sink, isothermal compression.
Right.
And finally, step 4, isolate it again and compress it further. Its temperature rises back to the original hot temperature, ready for the next cycle, adiabatic compression.
And that cycle represents the perfect, ideal way an engine could work.
The most efficient way possible, theoretically, a benchmark.
And here's the mind-blowing part for me. He figures all this out based on the caloric theory.
Yeah, the idea of heat as this indestructible fluid flowing from hot to cold.
Which we now know isn't right. Heat is energy transfer, related to particle motion. It's amazing he built such a correct framework on a flawed foundation.
It truly is. It speaks volumes about his intuition and the power of his logic. He captured the essence of the process, the constraints, even with the wrong physical picture of heat itself.
So what was the big conclusion he drew from this cycle?
The revolutionary part, the bit that's still fundamental physics today. The maximum possible efficiency of any such ideal engine depends only on the temperatures of the hot source and the cold sink.
Only the temperatures. That's it.
That's it. It doesn't matter what gas or substance you use inside the cylinder. Air, steam, doesn't matter. Just the temperature difference, T-hot and T-cold.
That is incredibly simple and powerful. Universal, like you said.
Mind-blowing for the time. It cuts through all the complicated engineering details and says, here's the ultimate limit set by nature itself, just based on temperature.
Did people buy it? I mean, it's elegant, but based on caloric theory, was there pushback?
Well, the interesting thing is, his work wasn't widely noticed at first. So there wasn't huge immediate debate. But our source does mention his rigor. Like, he even thought about how to make the theoretical process as smooth, as close to ideal as possible. He considered putting intermediate temperature bodies between the hot and cold sources.
To smooth out the heat transfer.
Very exactly. Yeah. To approach what we now call a reversible process, the theoretical limit of efficiency. It shows how deeply he was thinking about the theoretical underpinnings, aiming for perfection within his framework.
Okay, let's place this in time again, because the timeline is just wild.
It really helps appreciate it, yeah.
His paper is 1824. Rudolf Clausius introduces entropy. When?
Not until the 1850s, so 3 decades later.
30 years. And James Joule showing that work and heat are equivalent, basically the first law.
That's in the 1840s, 20 years after Carnot.
So he predates the first law and the second law, essentially. Energy conservation and entropy.
Pretty much. Lord Kelvin formally stated the first law even later. Carnot was building the foundation stones before anyone even had the blueprints for the whole building.
So even though he used the caloric theory, his insights paved the way.
Absolutely. His work was indispensable for formulating both the first and second laws later on. His understanding of lost work in irreversible processes.
Like heat just flowing from hot to cold without doing work.
Exactly. That unavoidable loss, that directionality, it points directly towards the concept of entropy. Even though he couldn't name it, he saw the consequences.
What's the ripple effect? Thermodynamics gets established.
Right, based on his work and others building on it. Then that leads to statistical mechanics, understanding heat and energy from the perspective of atoms and molecules.
Okay.
And believe it or not, these ideas even provide some conceptual grounding for quantum mechanics later in the early 20th century, understanding energy levels, particle distributions.
Wow. And you mentioned information theory, too.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Concepts like entropy pop up there, too, measuring uncertainty or information content. There's even a link between information erasure and energy dissipation, Landauer's principle. It all traces back, in a way, to these fundamental ideas about energy, work, and limits that Carnot pioneered.
That's an incredible legacy, stretching from steam engines to, like, the limits of computation.
It really is, which makes the end of his own story even more poignant.
Right, because he didn't get to see any of this long-term impact.
Not at all. His career, just as he was potentially moving beyond the caloric theory himself, Some of his notes found after his death suggest he was already thinking about heat as motion, closer to our modern view.
Really? He was getting there.
It seems like he might have been on the verge, but then things changed drastically.
What happened?
Well, first, France had the July Revolution in 1830, political upheaval, which always disrupts things, including science.
Okay, instability.
And then, just 2 years later,
Right.
in 1832, he caught cholera, and he died.
Cholera. How old was he?
Just 36?
36. That's
Right.
incredibly young. All that potential.
Gone. And like we said, his work wasn't even widely known then.
So how did it eventually get recognized?
It took others. Émile Clapeyron was crucial. He put Carnot's ideas into mathematical form, making them more accessible.
Right, equations help.
Definitely. And then William Thomson, who later became Lord Kelvin, he was a huge champion. He saw the importance and promoted it.
So it needed advocates.
It did. The first English translation didn't even appear until 1890. And it was dedicated, quite touchingly, to Carnot's nephew, who by then had become president of France.
Wow, Marie-Françoise Sadi Carnot. Quite the family legacy.
Indeed. But it shows how long it can take for truly foundational ideas to permeate and get the recognition they deserve.
It's also, as our source points out, a reminder of how vulnerable science is.
Yeah.
Not just to being wrong, but to things like political turmoil, pandemics.
Exactly. The 1830 revolution, the cholera epidemic,
Yeah.
these external shocks can derail progress just as much as theoretical roadblocks. It feels very relevant thinking about recent global events.
Yeah, it really does. So fast forward 200 years, we're talking about him now. Is this purely historical interest, or does Carnot's work still, do anything for us today?
Oh, it's absolutely still relevant. Massively so. His theories aren't just museum pieces. They're fundamental to understanding energy efficiency, period.
In what way? Like for modern engines?
For modern engines, yes, but think broader. Renewable energy technologies, solar thermal, geothermal, optimizing sustainable systems.
Okay.
Anywhere you're converting heat or energy, maximizing efficiency is key, especially now with climate change and sustainability goals. Carnot's cycle, that's still the theoretical speed limit, the ideal we're always trying to get closer to.
So engineers are still bumping up against Carnot limits.
In a way, yes. Or rather, using his principles to guide design and identify where losses are happening. And it's evolving, too.
How so?
Well, there are cutting-edge fields like stochastic thermodynamics. It's a branch of non-equilibrium statistical physics.
Okay, that sounds complex. What's the gist?
Carnot's cycle is idealized as happening infinitely slowly, perfectly reversible to get maximum efficiency.
Right, the quasi-static process.
Yeah, exactly. But in the real world, you often want power. You want things to happen fast. Stochastic thermodynamics looks at engines operating in finite time, dealing with fluctuations, trying to optimize for maximum power output, not just peak efficiency. It's about trade-offs.
So pushing beyond the ideal slow case for practical, faster applications.
Precisely. It's directly building on and extending Carnot's foundations for the real, messy, fast-paced world.
That's fascinating. Our source also had that interesting parallel. Britain's industrial might versus France's theoretical breakthroughs.
Yeah, comparing the London 2012 Olympics opening ceremony, all industrial revolution,
Right, smokestacks and all that.
versus the Paris 2024 focus on universal human values. It's kind of a metaphor for the practical engineering versus the fundamental science.
Two sides of the same coin, really.
Exactly, you need both. The engineering pushes the boundaries, the science explains why the boundaries are where they are, and potentially how to shift them.
So thinking about Carnot's journey, what's the big takeaway about basic science?
I think his story is just a powerful argument for it. Foundational research, asking those deep, universal questions. Even if you don't see the payoff immediately, even if your starting assumptions aren't perfect.
Yeah.
That's what drives long-term progress. It builds the knowledge base for technologies and societal advances, maybe decades or centuries down the line. It's not just curiosity, it's investing in the future.
It's incredible to trace that line from Carnot thinking about steam engines to, well, everything thermodynamics touches today.
It really is. His ambitious vision, even working with what he called incomplete theories, his short life, the recognition coming later.
A pioneer whose work, born in one revolution, is still shaping another one, our quest for sustainable energy.
And I think connecting it all, his story shows something profound. Even with imperfect knowledge, even with massive external obstacles like revolutions or disease, fundamental insights can still emerge.
Insights that change everything.
Right. It really underscores the power of just critical thinking, rigorous analysis, and asking those big foundational questions. That kind of thinking can transcend the limitations of its era.
So maybe the thought to leave everyone with is this. What are the incomplete theories we're grappling with today?
Good question. In science, sure, but maybe in society too. Economics, politics.
Where are our blind spots? And what breakthroughs might come if we question things with the same kind of depth and courage Carnot did?
Maybe the really fundamental questions, the ones whose impact won't be clear for another 200 years. Maybe those are the most important ones to be asking right now.
A challenging thought. Thank you for diving deep with us today.
My pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.